My name is Jason, and I want to tell you about a seriously wild situation that shook up my life not too long ago. I'm 35 years old, have been married for 15 years to my wife, Alyssa. She's 37, and we have a son. Alyssa used to work as a cashier at a gas station, which was particularly tough during the summer months when the highway would be packed with travelers. She'd often come home absolutely worn out, so exhausted that the idea of marital intimacy was just off the table for her. She'd say she'd rather just get some sleep. Now Alyssa is a stunning woman, truly. She's in the prime of her life with an incredible figure for 37, a tiny waist, and, well, let's just say she's very well endowed. Maybe that's why, to this day, I'm still insanely attracted to her, even after all these years. I'll admit I sometimes get a little jealous, even though we've been married for so long. For the most part, we lived a calm, easy life together, at least until her boss at the station switched her to a rotating schedule. That's when everything started getting weird. First, she decided to change up her hairstyle and even dyed her hair. I didn't mind. I thought the new blonde shade actually suited her. Then, a couple months later, Alyssa suddenly got super into fitness and swimming, spending her free time at the gym or the pool. It all did wonders for her figure, so I tried to be supportive, but something about the whole thing kept bugging me. One day, while tidying up around the house, I came across a bright red set of lacy underwear with some pretty provocative cutouts. That's when I started feeling uneasy. She'd never worn anything like that for me. That evening, I straight up asked her, "Hey, what's with this sexy lingerie? Who's it for?" She lowered her eyes and mumbled that she'd bought it as a surprise for me. I had no idea whether to believe her, but that same night, I insisted she put it on right away. To my surprise, she didn't refuse or dodge like she usually did. She almost seemed eager for me to demand it. We ended up spending most of the night fooling around. Thankfully, our son was off visiting grandparents. Yet it didn't feel entirely positive for me. I know some guys would say I was being ridiculous. My wife was suddenly all about pleasing me in bed, jumping at any chance for intimacy, looking amazing in new outfits. She kept buying more and more lingerie, fancy lotions, doing up her makeup. But deep down, I was convinced she had someone else. That had to be the reason she was changing so drastically. Whenever I asked her what was up with this new style or why she was so eager for intimacy, she'd insist it was just for me, that she wanted to reignite our marriage. But it all felt fishy. I started checking her phone messages on the sly, went through her social media, email. Everything was squeaky clean. I even requested a log of her calls and texts. Still nothing. That's when I turned to a coworker of mine who's a bit of a computer whiz. I didn't say, "Hey, I think my wife's cheating. Help me spy on her." I just asked him if he had any software that might help me keep track of certain digital footprints. He loaded some sneaky app onto a flash drive, explained how to bypass antivirus programs, and gave me some tips on installing it. All day at work, I was a ball of nerves, playing out different scenarios in my head. Of course, that's exactly when my boss dumped a ton of extra tasks on me, so I didn't get home until really late. Didn't get a chance to set anything up that night either, though Alyssa and I ended up in bed again for another crazy night. The next morning, I was feeling even more suspicious when she left for work in a top with a really low neckline. She'd never worn anything that revealing, not even when we were dating. I couldn't help but ask why she was dressed like that. She gave me some weird reply about how it made her feel more confident. My nerves were shot, and I demanded she change into something else. That must have turned her on because she dragged me back to the bedroom for another round. It was bizarre. She'd never been this bold before. That evening, I raced home, determined to install the app from my flash drive on her computer. I followed my coworker's instructions to the letter, but found nothing. No hidden accounts, no suspicious chats. All night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing she might be using a second phone or something. The next day, I tore our whole apartment apart, searching for a burner, phone, or some kind of clue. Didn't find a thing. The only odd discovery was a bunch of books on intimate relationships in her drawer, stuff about exploring new fantasies. At that point, I was so confused, I sank into a bit of a depression. A close friend noticed I was off and asked what was bugging me. I explained my situation, half expecting him to laugh at me. He sort of did, saying he'd be thrilled if his wife suddenly got so passionate. But when he saw I wasn't laughing, he apologized and suggested something simple. Why don't you just come home early one day and see what's going on? It was like a light bulb went on in my head. Why hadn't I thought of that? The next day, I told my boss I wasn't feeling well. He let me go, and I rushed home. As soon as I opened the front door, I heard some kind of sultry music coming from our bedroom. I was so shocked. I forgot to even take my shoes off. I crept over and opened the door, and there was Alyssa, butt naked on the bed, moving to the music and filming herself on a webcam. In one hand, she was holding let's call it a toy, something I hadn't seen before, nor had I found it during my little search. I didn't want to watch another second of that. I just clapped my hands loudly and shouted, "Bravo!" The noise startled her so much, she nearly jumped off the bed. She scrambled to turn off the camera, then burst into tears. Through sobs, she explained that she'd been doing these explicit live streams for about 3 months. Some viewers even sent her money, but she swore it wasn't about the cash. She said it helped her loosen up, feel confident, express herself. Everything those men on the other side wanted to do with her, she'd kind of bring into our real life. Honestly, I felt sick to my stomach. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arms and insisted she loved only me, that she'd never physically cheat. I tried to pull away. "Why do you need random men watching you to feel sexy?" I asked. "Couldn't you dance for me instead?" She wiped her mascara-smeared tears and said that doing it for me didn't give her the same adrenaline rush as performing on camera for strangers. That answer froze me in my tracks. I told her I needed some air, that I had to think. She begged me not to walk out, but I shook free and stepped onto the balcony, lit a cigarette, my mind racing. On one hand, she hadn't actually been with another man physically. She was just broadcasting these intimate shows online. On the other, it felt like a betrayal. Humiliated me, made me feel worthless. Eventually, she promised to quit it altogether, just so I wouldn't file for divorce. We spent a few weeks living apart, but I found myself missing her, crazy as it sounds. So I came back. Now we watch more adult films together and do our own little experiments. Sometimes I still get a knot in my stomach thinking about how I walked in on that scene. But I guess that's the messed up path we ended up taking to fix our marriage. I'm still not sure if this is a happy ending, but at least we're confronting it together.